Hey everyone, I'm your host Courtney O'Steen and you're watching The People Project. Don't forget to like and share this video with someone that you think could find it valuable. Thank you to the incredible individuals who have made this series possible. Without you, there wouldn't be a project. Hey everyone, it's Courtney O'Steen, the host of The People Project, and I'm so excited to have my special guest and friend, Natalie Aguirre, and she is the owner and founder of Wholesome Hosting. Everyone, please welcome Natalie.
Hi, everybody.
Natalie, why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about Wholesome Hosting and how you started it?
Sure. So Wholesome Hosting is my business name, and basically my business is a Whole30 Coach, among many other things like motherhood and homeschool mom and wife and house cleaner and chef and all of those other things. Being a Whole30 Coach is basically I help people find their health habits and relationship with food. And yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I coach people along on their journey on Whole30, and that's done through basically either one-on-one coaching or group coaching.
And what was it that made you decide to be a coach in the first place?
So it wasn't actually a dream of mine to be a coach. It wasn't something that I said, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a Whole30 coach. I actually went to school for teaching. So my degree is in teaching. But I retired from that field when I became a stay-at-home mom. And I did my first Whole30 in 2012 when my firstborn was about 1 year old. And I actually didn't use the program correctly for the first many times. We call them rounds. For the first many rounds that I did Whole30, I used it as a quote unquote diet, the next fad thing, pretty much what most people are looking for when they think of a dietary program. And so it wasn't until the book Food Freedom Forever had come out, and the book basically explains what life after Whole30 should look like. So it's this transition from what is Whole30 to life after, and that's what we call Food Freedom Forever. And so when that book came out, it really clicked for me as far as what to use Whole30 for, which is basically an experiment. So anybody who would like to experiment with food and the side effects of what food does to you, that's not just a physical side effect, that can be an emotional, that can be a mental, that could be anything that you may be dealing with in life, and seeing how food can relate to that. And so basically after that came out, I became super passionate about food freedom and working my own food freedom. And then about a year and a half ago, so January of 2020, I was talking to my husband, and I was thinking, you know what, my middle daughter is going to go start school. She's going to be in kindergarten, and my older one was in school already. I think it's a time where I can kind of step out and maybe have a little bit of freedom and do something, but I don't know necessarily what that would be. The only thing I could really think of is my passion for food and Whole30 and my journey, because if you know my journey, it's been one when it comes to food and weight, I've always had a struggle with that. And so, this is my life. This is basically what I do on a day-to-day basis. And he's like, I think you would be so good at being a Whole30 coach. You're so inspirational, blah, 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 blah. And so I said, okay, I think I'm going to do this. But it was funny because if you've ever been a stay-at-home mom or work part-time or taken a break from working, your fear to get back out there in the world of working is there. You have a fear, like, I don't know. Like when I went to go fill out the application, I thought, I'm not qualified for this. I can't do this. I haven't filled out the application in years. I don't even know how to do this. And so I basically, this is a tactic I use to help myself, is I took the questions from the application and I wrote them in my notes in my phone very casually. And I just answered them from my heart, basically, and pretended like I wasn't on an interview or answering a formal question. I just answered them from my heart and how I really felt about Whole30 and how it's changed my life. And I applied and I got accepted the next day. But the way the program works is you have to go through a series of tests before you become certified. So I don't necessarily work for Whole30 corporate or Whole30 headquarters. I am just basically licensed by them to run my own coaching practice, and I can have their trademark behind my name. And so I did a series of tests, and then next thing you know, I was a certified coach, which was crazy. It was done within 4 weeks. Most average time they say is 6 weeks plus, because there's a series of 4 different tests, but I was just on fire. Once I decided, hey, I'm going to do this, I can't wait to coach people. I just took off and started doing that, and then launched my business and started putting myself out there. And basically, I had 100 clients within 1 year. So it's definitely taken off way more than I had anticipated. I had told my husband my goal was if I could just have 1 client a month, if I could just change someone's life, 1 person a month, that would be my goal.
I love hearing your story, and even more so, I love watching it, because I've had the honor to watch you go from that kind of beginning and hit the ground running. But what I thought was really neat about it was you took this passion for not just food, but for changing people's lives and impacting them in a great way. And being a mom, I think, is one of the most beautiful gifts I've ever been given. But then having the after effects of what your body looks like, right? I mean, I know me personally, my last weigh-in with my son, that I would allow them to tell me what I weighed. She proudly says, the nurse goes, okay, 201 pounds. And I scowled at her and I said, this will be the last time you speak my weight out loud. You can tell me that I'm glowing, I'm fabulous, and I look healthy. Other than that, do not utter a word. And I thought I was growing a human, but I was also so ashamed of how large I had become. And I had really difficult time losing weight after pregnancy. And I just think it's one of those things to where we go to run our households, to keep our kids, healthy and happy and engaged in school and activities and socialization. And our health kind of falls to the wayside. So when you started building your business, what did you find was your best personal reward from it?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say really the personal reward is to see people's lives changing before my eyes. I mean, I've had some clients that their life has literally changed as far as they're off medication. They, at some point had some severe health issues going on, and that has changed. I had one client that chose to continue on the program for a really long time. That's not the way the program is intended necessarily. It really is just a 30-day experiment for most people, but she had a history of things that she really felt she wanted to focus on. And honestly, when she started the program, she started with the intentions of, I am only going to do this for 30 days. Like she had even said, I don't even know how I'm gonna get to day 10. But she did a full year of the program. And
Wow.
it was literally changing her life. I mean, she was a high school dropout, and she ended up going back to school during the program and finished with her bachelor's degree during, at the very end of her Whole30. And really because Whole30 was motivating her, giving her the energy, giving her what we call tiger's blood, which is basically defined as this self-efficacy. You just wake up and you're like ready to tackle the world. And Whole30 gives that to a lot of people, no matter what stage you are in life. She, was in her 50s. It's not as though she was a high school dropout and this is 2 years later or something like that. Grown kids, all of these things. And so it basically just changed her life forever. And so and it's funny how our story with, her and I, how we started, because as I've talked to you before about this, is social media is not my jam, as far as I'm always reluctant to post and just getting on there. And I think a lot of people can relate just in general, like, what do you post? What do you, all this stuff. And so I had a before and after picture that was, I thought, like, wow, it told a lot just by the picture. But I was reluctant to put it on there only because I didn't, not because I was ashamed or anything of my before, because I love to see that growth and that progress, but just more of relevance. Like, what is the purpose of this? Are people even going to find this of value? Are they going to say, oh, great, here's another diet program? How are they going to look at that? And so I was super reluctant. But what I wanted to message in that picture is it's not just the weight, it's my whole entire life has been changed. Yes, weight is what you can see visually, but you can't see the change that happened mentally and emotionally. And that, to me, when people are on a weight loss journey or a health journey, for me, things did not change physically until they changed internally. And so I posted that picture, and that's how she found me, through a hashtag, basically, and messaged me and said, I had seen you on the Whole30 website, but I saw you and thought, this girl has no idea what it's like to be heavy. She just saw the picture of me now. She can't relate to me. She wouldn't understand my struggles. And then she just happened to see this picture on social media and messaged me and said, you're the one for me, basically. It was really funny.
I love it. And I think that's one of the most important things when we are posting is really letting our guard down, understanding it's not about us at all. And it's giving an opportunity for somebody to see that mirror image back and saying, wow, you did that. Now, I have done Whole30, but similarly, I had posted a photo of me. I post it every now and then, every few years, I think I post it because it pops up in my time hop.
Yeah.
And I think people get really hesitant. They see maybe a photo of me now and they're like, oh, well, you don't know what it's like to struggle with weight. You're right. When I grew up, I never knew what it was like because I'm an athlete by nature. I was either in dance, cheer, softball, or track. So I worked out a good majority of the day. But when we become sedentary, we're not doing the activities that we used to do. And our metabolism has not shifted in our brain to catch up with how our body does things. I mean, girl, I could go to Carl's Jr. and get a double junior Western bacon cheeseburger and get zucchini plus fries and eat all that crap and be fine. I eat it now. One, I'm gluten intolerant, so it wreaks complete havoc on my body. Two, I think I gained 10 pounds just looking at it. Mm-hmm. And three, it's an overall experience that it's such an emotional connection. It's like, this used to be a happy feeling, so it should be now. But when I post that picture, I get that same reaction. I never knew you knew what it was like. I thought, well, you didn't know because you just assumed. But it's not just that visual thing for me. It's, I don't like how I feel internally. I feel sluggish. I have brain fog. I'm exhausted by 1 p.m. when I eat poorly and I don't fuel my body how it should be fueled. And I think even more now, and God, I hate talking about COVID, but we really need to take a look at our health and see what we're putting into our bodies and how that really affects our overall ability of health and wellness.
For sure. I couldn't agree more. And I think I would say probably more than 50% of my clients do come to me with weight as a priority. But I think anyone who has done a Whole30 correctly, and I don't mean to say that in a negative way, but because I had done it incorrectly for many times. If they don't come to the program with the intention of figuring out that this is so much deeper than weight, and in the way the program is written is kind of like what you're talking about. We don't use the scale at all. You're not even allowed to use the scale during Whole30. It's not weight focused at all. Of course, 96%, I think, is the percentage of people that lose weight. So yes, it's going to be a side effect for most people. But it's more premised on all of those things that you were describing, as far as, how do I feel? How am I sleeping? What does my energy look like? Can I get through the day without needing a coffee? Or, those crashes, those cycles of high and low. I would say skin, inflammation. I mean, if you really look at, there's a list of what we call non-scale victories. So those are the things that I'm talking about that we focus on. And there's 2 pages on the Whole30 website. You can go Whole30.com and look in their PDFs is where it's at. And it would be on there. And basically I like to send those to people who are even just a slight bit interested in, like, what is Whole30? What does it do? And I say, well, here are the things that are most commonly found when people do Whole30, because these are the things that are statistically, study-wise, shown up the most in people. And if you look at that list, I mean, it varies anywhere from mood to, it just goes on and on, is basically what I'm trying to say. And to me, that was always fascinating, because I don't think a lot of people correlate food to all of these side effects that we have in our life, things like autoimmune diseases and arthritis, and I mean, just you can name it. And so I always found that super fascinating. And even to work with clients who think, oh, well, you know, I don't really have any big intolerances. And then they do the program, they do their reintroduction, and they are floored at all of a sudden, oh my gosh, how did I not realize blank was causing blank? Or something pops up that they never can see. I don't know why scientifically, when we're eating quote unquote regular sad, like standard American diet, things don't pop up, but for some reason after an elimination, that's when you tend to see the sensitivities pop up. I had a client recently that did a gluten-free grain reintroduction, which is basically corn, oats. I mean, these are all things that are gluten-free. And when she did her reintroduction, she broke out in hives, like literally all over her face, her back. I had never seen something like that to that extreme, but that was just such an eye opener for her, because she had been eating that prior, obviously not having that. But I'm always interested to see or know, what is the body doing internally to fight some of these things? Obviously her body, you know, reacted in that way after her reintroduction, but what was it doing internally before Whole30 to process? And I think that's when things start to, you know, come unbalanced. And I couldn't agree with you more about the time of year and focus, as far as not specifically time of year, but like you said, with COVID and health, and it's so much deeper than what we see on the outside.
It really is. And I think what you're doing is so important, because as women specifically, because that's primarily our audience, even though we do have some male listeners, hello boys, it's really important that we take time to realize this isn't selfish care. This is absolute necessary care in order to be our very best version of people. And I think the analogy everyone can relate to the best is when we're on an airplane, the stewardess tells you to put that mask on before you put it on and help somebody else. And we need to really think of our bill of health as personal responsibility and not communal responsibility. Because at the end of the day, when we focus truly on what we're putting in our bodies, I mean, I wouldn't walk out to my car right now and put sugar in the gas tank and expect for it to run. I mean, eventually it's going to start to break down and the mechanics aren't going to work the same, right? I mean, sure, I might get down the street and there's no effect. And then maybe I go 2 miles more and you start to hear a noise. Maybe I make it to the freeway and now I'm exiting for my son's school and I'm like, oh crap, my car's not working anymore. And it's the same thing that we do with our bodies. And what I love about Whole30, it's not this punishment. It's not like, well, you can't have this and you can't have that. It's that food freedom and knowing what you can and can't have and what makes you feel good and what doesn't, because my makeup is completely different from yours genetically. And what I put into my body may completely agree with you, but it may not agree with me. And even when I'm preparing for an event, so I do a complete elimination during that time, I notice when certain things get introduced back, it's like, oh, that does not have any business in my body. And it may be good on somebody else. And it's sometimes something as simple as a vegetable that just doesn't agree with me. Like I don't process corn the same way everybody else does. And I may not process a green bean the same way everybody else does. And I say those two things because they're my culprits. They're inflammatory to me. And I can tell because I feel like my stomach is on fire. It feels like, you know, I'm bloating. And so it's really important that we dive a little bit deeper. And I wish our education system taught us proper nutrition and how to foster our own individual health and, you know, really take responsibility for what that looks like as a person. So that leads me to my next question for you. What is it about coaching others lets you use your own story and experience to have them be successful?
Let let me just piggyback on just one more thing that you said prior, because I loved it, about prioritizing, how you said it's not selfish. And I say that to, and this kind of, I guess, goes into the next question too, but how important, I have a lot of moms that I've coached, and their thing is, I am so busy. I don't have time. I have so much going on. I have sports schedules, and, the list goes on and on and on. And I always tell them, especially at the beginning, you have to prioritize this experiment just in the beginning, even if it feels selfish, even if it feels like it's taking so much time or you have to plan. And the reason I say that is because this experiment will catapult you in all of those other areas to make you better at that. I will personally always prioritize my health and what I'm eating, because it makes me the best mom, the best wife, the best coach, the best homeschool teacher, all of those things. So I have to prioritize that in order for everything else to be in line. So I couldn't agree with you more with that sentiment of prioritizing yourself in this area will make you better to serve others and give your best self. So using my own journey, I would say my biggest thing, it seems to be, because actually the coaching part of Whole30 and telling people you can have this or you can't have that is kind of simplistic. There really isn't a gray area, because with Whole30, we're not looking at counting macros or meal portions, or it's very free inside the program itself. If it's Whole30, eat it. If it's not, don't. So I'm not very involved as far as, what are you eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Do I ask? Do we have conversations? Yes, but it doesn't need to be a program where it's super specific. So I would say a big portion of my coaching that I use my real life in, or that clients seem to be interested in, is the food freedom part. What do you do? Because I can't believe how many clients I have coming to me as returning Whole30ers. So they've done it before, whether they've done it on their own, or most people have done it on their own. I've even had clients that have done it a few times, and they're looking for that life after, because they loved the way they felt on Whole30. That's the thing. Once you do it once, you'll never forget the way that you feel on it, especially if you've never done a program similar to that. And they just become, I want to feel that way forever. And the goal of food freedom is to feel that way forever. The goal of food freedom is to say, I want to see how much I can get away with as far as food goes and all that kind of stuff, but still looking and feeling my best Whole30 self, maintaining all of those non-scale victories that I achieved during Whole30 and continuing to have them, but still allowing the foods that we love in our life and that work the best with our body. And so I think it's just a lot of it with my clients is, how do you continue to live that way? How do you continue to live in food freedom? And the food freedom book, obviously, it's a really short read, but I just use the strategies that are in them, and I give them real life experiences. This is what I do. This is how my life looks. These are the things that I incorporate in my life. And again, like you said, it's not a one size fits all with my clients. I don't say chips and salsa are great for me. They're going to be great for you. That's not what it's about. It's during your reintroduction, how did you fit with corn or whatever else that we're talking about? And it's up to you personally to decide if that item is worth it to have in your life. And the thing with food freedom too is it's not a perfection end all game, which is hard for someone like me who is a type A perfectionist. I always want things black and white and laid out. And that's not really what food freedom is, because it can be a continually, and you may be able to answer this as well, but there may be things that you thought in your life you could have and tolerate 3 years ago. And as life has gone on, you've said, you know what, like you said, when you do right before your pageantry, you do something and you go, oh, wow, I was eating that before, but you know what, that's a no-go for me now. And so it's a continually moving cycle where we decide, are things worth it? And the time of year, occasion, food is so much bigger than food. It's social, it's celebratory, it's all these things that we use food for. And so it's not about saying you can never have cake on your birthday. It's not about that. It's about finding the things that work the best for you, but also feeling free within those boundaries, and processing through, is something worth it to me to eat it or not, and how that works. And I do want to say, this isn't, I say processing through, thinking through, this isn't sitting back when you attend a party and you see the cake there. This is not me sitting back saying, man, I really, really wish I could have that cake. Like, I want that cake, but I can't. And for a lot of people, are like, well, I don't understand what you're saying. And that's the magic of Whole30. That's the magic of doing the experiment and figuring out, because you do get to a point where there are things that you used to enjoy in your life and you have no interest and desire in them anymore. And it's not from a place of restriction. And that's the biggest thing. It's not a diet of restriction. It's just figuring out, what works best for you.
I agree with that sentiment 100%. And sometimes, I'll have that thing that I want to eat and it just makes me feel horrible after I have it. And sure, for that moment, I think it was almost the anticipation leading up to it. Like, oh, I'm going to have this goodie and it's going to be so great. And for me, it's not even necessarily sweet treats because I'm a savory person. But when I have it, my body just reminds me that's not how I process well. And when you put that in me, I feel like crap. And there's a word that I really think gets misused, and it's diet, because everyone assumes that means we're cutting things out of our life. Everyone has a diet. I don't care if you eat at In-N-Out every single day of the week, that's your diet. If you choose to eat clean, so to speak, so you're eating lean and green, that is your diet. It doesn't mean it comes from a place of restriction. It's what you're choosing to put in your body. And I think people really need to reprogram that train of thought.
Yes, for sure. And that would be a huge goal of food freedom, and Whole30 is exactly those things. We don't label things as good or bad. It's just consequences. Whether that's, like you said, just because something is within the realms of Whole30 too, like vegetables. There are people who have sensitivities to FODMAP foods or nightshades or things that within Whole30 that they can't even have. But a lot of times they don't even realize that until they do a Whole30 and they start to pinpoint in there, because they've taken so many other things out and they start to see. So again, it's all food across the board that, some people have a sensitivity to more high, protein or things like that. And there is protein on Whole30. And so in a meat form is what I'm referencing, animal protein. So I think that, it's interesting. And I think everybody should do Whole30 one time in their life as an experiment. Of course, this is me as a coach, but I just think it's so eye-opening. Again, not correlating to weight or I need to, I'm body image, just a lot deeper than that.
Absolutely. So for our listeners and our viewers, tell everyone how they can connect with you for more information about Whole30.
Sure. You can follow me on Instagram. My name is at Wholesome Hosting. So WHOLEHOSTING at Wholesome Hosting. Or you can go to my website, which is www.thewholesomehosting.com. But I'm very open to answer any Whole30 questions. I love to talk to anyone about it. You don't have to pay me to have a conversation with me about Whole30. I'm super passionate about it. You can DM me on there, or you can also email me. My email is wholesomehosting@gmail.com. And so, I'm open to, answering any questions. I have people that will ask me, hey, can I do this or can I do that? And so I'm open to all those. And I also on my website have a free 15-minute introductory phone call. So if a lot of times people just want to call and ask me questions and, hey, is this a good fit for me? And just kind of see, am I a good fit as a coach for them? Because not every coach is going to fit with every person. And I'm okay with that. I want to be the best fit for my clients.
That's one thing I absolutely love about you is your transparency in how people are going to fit together, and it has to be a good match. Before we wrap up today, And I do want to have you on again for another subject because Natalie is an incredible party hoster. And I would love for her to share with her tips and tricks on how to turn out an insane party on a budget. So I hope you'll come back for that one.
I don't know if you have enough time for that. That might be 5 episodes in one. We'll have to do a series.
That's right. It'll be a good mini series. But what would be one piece of advice that you offer to our listeners and viewers today when it comes to your personal self-care?
Ooh, that's a good one. Self-care can be so deep. I think some people, the quote unquote definition of self-care is let's take a bubble bath or let's go to the spa or things like that. And I think self-care can be so basic. It can be just as much like my basic self-care, my everyday self-care is making sure I get enough sleep. So that means going to bed early. Having my cup of coffee in the morning before my children wake up. Sometimes taking a nap if my schedule allows for it. That's like one of my favorite self-care activities. Drinking my favorite iced tea all day long. So it can be really simple. I think it's just things that help you feel your best self, but that also help propel and motivate you to be the best of you. And so it doesn't have to be something that's crazy. It can be basic, and it's not about necessarily just bringing you joy, because I'm not really I'm more of a discipline equals freedom type of personality. So I don't think it's about this brings me joy as much as, like I said, it just makes you the best version of yourself.
I think that's fantastic advice. And ladies and gentlemen, please make sure to check out the show notes if you're interested in connecting with Natalie regarding Whole30. We would love to have you have the opportunity to take your health very seriously. And I would like to once again thank you for your time on the show. This is Courtney O'Steen signing off with another great episode of The People Project. And don't forget, be beautiful, be blessed, but most of all, be you. Have a great day, you guys.